Okay, Justin, I'm back again, and I've waited till you can see the levain has more than doubled. See where the first mark was here? And it's gone way up to here now. So actually it's like 4 in the afternoon now, and I put that in at 11. I probably could have taken this out, you know, maybe an hour or so ago, but it's perfect because it's, and you can see down in here, see how bubbly it is? Little bubbles popping. So it's ready to go. So what I do next is I take a big bowl like so, and I'm gonna make, I think it's called the shaggy mass is what they call this part. So I shall walk you through the amounts for that. And this is part 2. Here we go. Let me get this set up so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so the first thing I do is I add 773 grams of unbleached all-purpose flour, okay? So remember, and I want it to be in grams. So usually the scale that you use, you can do milliliters or ounces or pounds or grams. So we always measure the bread in grams. And I make sure I zero it out to 0 grams when I start. So it subtracts the weight of my bowl. And then I add my all-purpose flour. So it's going to be 773 grams of the all-purpose unbleached. And this recipe makes 2 nice-sized loaves of bread. 773. A bit less. 70. There we go. Okay. And then to that I add 175 grams of stone ground whole wheat. So I'm going to do a combination of, I have whole grain whole wheat flour. Then I also have this stone milled flour. It's stone milled whole red Fife flour. And so I'm just going to do a combination of those two. So I will do 100 grams of the red Fife flour, and then I'll do 75 grams of the whole wheat flour. So I zero out my scale again here to 0. And then I'll add the whole wheat flour. So I'm going to do 100 grams of the red Fife. Whoopsie. There we go, 100 grams. Oops, 110, take a bit out there. There we go. And then zero out. And 75 grams of the whole grain whole wheat flour. Okay, there we go. And now to that, I'm going to add 660 grams of the lukewarm water. Okay. And basically for this, I'll just show you how I'm doing that. 660 grams, I just pour that in the middle. Just in the center like that. And the thing about sourdough bread is if you've made regular yeast bread, is it seems incredibly sticky, and it is. So what you do with this is you have clean hands, and I just get right in there with my hand and I just smoosh it around like so. And probably one of my favorite parts about baking bread is that you get your hands in there. So I'm gonna put this down so I can use my other hand. You can still see what I'm doing right here. There we go. And I just get right in here. Make sure all the, sorry about that. There we go. Make sure all the dried flour gets mixed into this wet mixture. I think the easiest way to get it all incorporated is by using your hand. That's kind of how I like to do it. And when it gets incorporated, it's super sticky. And sourdough dough is really sticky, and that's okay. With store-bought yeast, that's not the sourdough yeast, you usually add lots of flour and you just keep adding it till the dough isn't sticky anymore, but it's quite different with sourdough. But the cool thing about sourdough is that you can mix it all in the bowl. You don't have to like knead out on the counter. And I'm just gonna get my scraper. Scraper, 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 there it is. I use one of these scrapers. A little plastic flat scraper, and just scrape off, because it sticks to your fingers, but that's totally okay. And what I have here is what they call the shaggy mass, and what starts to happen is the gluten in the flour starts to activate because of the water in there, and it starts to change in structure. And so this, I'll show you what it looks like. See, it's kind of wet and sticky, and we just call this the shaggy mass. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to cover it just with a bit of plastic, and then I'm going to put that back in the oven with the light on beside the starter. I just took the starter out, the levain actually, so you could see that it's double, but I'm going to put them back in the oven for half an hour, and that just gives the gluten a chance to start activating in here. And then when we come back in part 3, I'll be adding the salt and the levain. And we don't add the salt till later because the salt can sometimes, it starts to react with the gluten. So having just the water and the flour at the beginning at this stage is what we want to do. So I'll just show you how I put this back into the oven. Okay, there we go. For this, I just use like a regular old Safeway bag, like so. And I just loosely pop it over the top of the bowl like so. And then I put that into the oven like that, where just the light is on. And I want to cover my levain again with the baggie. I'm going to put that back in. And I'm going to set my timer for 30 minutes. And then I'll come back and I'll show you what that looks like in 30 minutes and how to add the levain to the shaggy mass. Okay, see you soon.